Hello, everybody, and welcome on into Mounties Midweek. I'm Drew Patrick. On today's show, we introduce the new head coach of the Mansfield baseball program and talk about the life and career of a Mansfield legend, Steve McCloskey. Plus, we break down David Butlers' historic day for the Sprint football team. The Mansfield Sprint football team had their home opener this past Saturday against Chestnut Hill College. Late second quarter, Mansfield down 2 scores when Kobe Peacock drops back and fires to DJ McLean in the corner of the end zone to give Mansfield the momentum heading into halftime. Later in the third quarter now, Mansfield once again driving and finds themselves down 19-6, but Peacock once again back fires this one out to John Rogers, who will squeak in, almost had his head ripped off, but that's a touchdown for Mansfield. They got the 2-point conversion. Score is 19-14. This game, however, was all about David Butler. Butler ran wild, rushing for 253 yards in the game. That is a record by over 100 yards. With that yardage, Butler also became the all-time leading rusher in program history. For his outstanding performance, Sauce Butler was named the CSFL Co-Offensive Player of the Week for week number 2 in the Sprint Football League. Back to the game in the fourth quarter, while Sauce puts the cherry on top of his day, and Peacock once again, this one finding Butler for the go-ahead touchdown. Mansfield was up 22-19. That lead would not last, however, as the Griffins score late in the fourth quarter and take the game by a score of 25-22. The Mountaineers fall to 1-1 on the season. Here was David Butler on his game.
It's a blessing. It feels great. I've been working hard, so more to come.
What was the key? What made you so successful that day?
That day, to be honest with you, it was the coaches and the O-line, because the coaches knew for the game plan that we wanted to run the ball, and it was dependent on me. So O-line was just like, come on, we're going to go get this, we're going to keep going. And that's basically what it was. I just followed them in the game plan.
And, of course, you got some recognition, the CSFL Co-Offensive Player of the Week. How does that feel?
I'm grateful for that. Glad to get the recognition, ready to keep it going, and hopefully they just keep recognizing.
The team returns to action Saturday for the annual Luma game as they welcome St. Thomas Aquinas College. The field hockey squad had 2 matches this past week. In the first battle, they traveled down to Slippery Rock. The Rock scored early in this game, less than a minute in, and held that lead until late when Dana Evans right here ties this game up with that goal. Then literally moments later, a scrum in front, Larissa Motts puts it in to give Mansfield the go-ahead goal, 2-1. That was your final score in this game. Brittany Ryan had 9 saves on the day. They return to action Saturday as they welcome the number 3 team in the country, East Stroudsburg, to Carl Van Norman Field. The Warriors got the better of the Mountaineers in that one, winning the game by a 2-0 score. And it was an untimed corner in the first half and then a penalty stroke goal in the second. That was the difference. Sarah Mae Riddell had 6 shots in the game, and Brittany Ryan tallied 8 saves. Coming up is a non-conference road tilt as the team travels down to Frostburg State on Friday and then takes on Lindenwood University on Saturday. The women's soccer team had 2 matches this past week. In their first match against Roberts Wesleyan, the team struggled to get going, and the Red Hawks beat the Mountaineers by a score of 3-0. Then Saturday, they faced nationally ranked East Stroudsburg University. Mansfield had their opportunities to attack, but couldn't squeak one in. They fall in this game by a score of 3-0. The Mountaineers make their longest conference road trip on Saturday as they travel to Shepherd University. The cross-country team took part in the Lock Haven Invitational. Starting on the ladies' side, Lauren Ensminger was the top Mansfield finisher with a 6K time of 24:34. And on the men's side of things, Quincy Amabile was your first Mountaineer finisher in 28th place with a 26:28K time. The Mountaineers are back in action Saturday, October 5th, as they compete in the Highlander Invitational at Houghton College. This weekend is Luma, and take a look at what you can partake in this weekend. Do not go anywhere. We speak with the brand new baseball coach, Andrew Chalot, on the other side of the break. Welcome back here. A couple weeks ago, we officially heard the news that there is a new man in charge of the Mansfield baseball program. Today, we have a chance to speak with that individual, Coach Andy Chalot. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Second, so in your press conference, one of the things you talked about was growing this program and taking this program and moving it forward. What are the steps into doing that?
Well, you know, I think the first thing is, you just got to recruit. We got to recruit good players. You look at every team that's good in our conference, you got to build from the mound. So, right now we're just scouring every 2020 pitcher that we can find and evaluate and plan to bring a really, really big class in for 2020 and build around those guys.
One of the things also that you stress is this is a process to rebuild and build up a program, and it's not going to be a 1 or 2 year fix. So for those players that are here for those years that you're still growing, what do you have to say to them, and how do you have to work with them to let them know they're still an integral part of building this program?
Well, I think it starts with our seniors, and our seniors have been absolutely incredible so far. I think they're re-energized right now. Really, really getting after it. Been really, really pleased. We've had 4 or 5 practices so far. We've only had one where I didn't think it was really that productive. So a lot of that is their leadership, because I told those guys it's on them. I'm not going to be ranting and raving every single day trying to get people motivated to work, and they've done a really good job.
So with that, talking about the practices in the fall, what are some of the things you look for, especially you've been here, so you're familiar with these guys, but what is that next step you're looking for here in the fall?
Well, I think, right now, we're just implementing some new things that we haven't done in the past. I mean, every coach has their different philosophy. If you looked at us statistically last year, we ranked near the bottom of the conference in most offensive categories, especially especially your power numbers, your doubles, your homers, your RBIs. So a lot of the stuff we're doing right now is just emphasizing, hitting the ball in the air a little bit more, especially at our field. I mean, our field just plays so short and small, and I think you saw it last year. We would out-hit guys, but we would still lose the game because we were hitting a bunch of singles and everybody else was hitting doubles and home runs. So a lot of the fundamental stuff we're doing right now, a lot of the drill work we're doing is geared toward hitting the ball in the air a little bit more and kind of take advantage of the field that we have.
So going back just a bit to the fact that you have been here before getting this head job, how does that help you and really help ease, I guess, the players? Or what are the benefits to the fact that you've been here?
I think the benefits are familiarity. They know my personality. Now, of course, I have to treat them differently as a head coach as I did an assistant coach. But it's still, they know me. They know my expectations. And, I'd say that's a big thing.
And then what are you going to – I guess the good thing about being part of that group is you've seen the good, you've seen the bad. You can kind of really – figure out what will work for this program. So what can you take from that, other than the familiarity, that you can take from that and really help boost this program?
Well, I think in the past 5-6 years, we've been good at phases. Our teams have, we've either had good pitching one year, we've had good defense one year, we've had good hitting some years. We've never really put the whole package together. And I think, like right now, recruiting more high school kids as opposed to transfers type of kids gives us a base to where we can even out our classes and give ourselves better potential to be good at all three phases of the game.
So in that, what is the difference, and how does that help build the program, going after the freshmen who will be here as opposed to the?
I think it's most transfers you only have 2 years to develop them. Or, in some cases, some people are just coming for one season, transferring for a senior year, whereas high school kids give you 4 years to develop them. And, I think the type of kid that we're looking for example, on the mound is a tall, lanky guy. When he puts on 20 pounds his freshman year of college, he's going to pick up velocity, and you're giving yourself a couple extra years to develop a kid. You take a kid like Evan McAndrew, who went from throwing 78 when he got here to 92. It's because he had those 4 years. If he only had those 2 years, we wouldn't have seen quite the dramatic jump that we saw there.
And then going on that, so the recruiting, does it ease some of the tension to recruiting, the fact that they know you, or some of these 2020 recruits should be familiar with you already? How much easier does that make the transition from assistant to head?
Well, yeah, because these are kids that I've been recruiting, since February, March, just the baseball recruiting cycle. These kids, some have already made it, and others are going to be making it here in the next month or so. Just having that relationship established, I kind of, while I was the interim, there was really no other way to approach it other than I was going to be the guy. So I've been maintaining relationships with these guys since, early February.
And what are the biggest changes that you are going to make from this past couple of years to this year? What are your changes that you really want to implement in your first year as the head man?
Well, I think, offensively, just looking to drive the ball with a little more authority, as far as the, just more extra base hits and RBIs and that type of thing. And we will sacrifice some strikeouts here and there to receive that type of production. And just, once again, some of our guys have been through, a rough past couple seasons, and it's, just maintaining their confidence, building them up, confidence-wise. The ability's just been there. We just haven't been able to put complete games together, and it's going to be more on focusing, not taking plays off, and playing a full 7-9 innings as compared to 5 innings, which we've been doing.
And so what are your overall goals for year one here with this group?
The goal is going to be the same every year. The first day of our introductory meeting, I put the zip code Cary, North Carolina on there. Cary, North Carolina is where the Division II World Series is played every year. That's our ultimate goal. There shouldn't be any other goal. And until we mathematically can't get there, that's going to be our goal.
All right, Coach. Well, congratulations once again, and thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you.
Mounties Midweek continues after this. Do not go anywhere.
UPMC is a visionary hospital, cutting-edge research, all of the exciting things out on the edge of medicine.
There's a challenge every day, and there's the potential to help. When given the opportunity to make a difference in someone's life, that's a tremendous feeling.
UPMC's interest in bringing the best there is in the science and research and bringing that bench side to the bedside is what makes a huge difference.
Life-changing medicine is not only medical treatment or surgical treatment, but giving patients hope.
From court to court and lane to lane, under the lights or under the sun, no one delivers Division II sports like NCAA.com. The center of D2 is inside the NCAA.com hub with exclusive highlights of every sport and live broadcasts of every Division II championship found nowhere else. Make NCAA.com yours, the home of Division II college sports.
Welcome back here to Mounties Midweek. We are joined now by a living legend here at Mansfield. He was the sports information director for so many years. He is, as I mentioned, a living legend. He's Steve McCloskey, a man who needs no introduction. Thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thanks for having me. It's nice to be wanted sometimes, you know?
So let's talk about your career here at Mansfield. What were some of the things that, going well back, what were some of the things that led you here to Mansfield?
You know, my story is, it may have taken me longer to graduate from Mansfield than any other living alumni. I actually came to Mansfield before I graduated from high school in Danville, Pennsylvania in 1971. So our graduation was in mid-June, and I actually started as a summer student here in the summer of 1971. Some of my best friends to this day are part of those class who were called pilot students that came in at that time. And I wasn't as mature as I probably should have been at that particular time in my life, and enjoyed school tremendously. Enjoyed being at school, not so much enjoyed school. And I left school and went down to Florida and was down there for a long period of time doing multiple things. And I actually came back to Mansfield because my mother came down to visit me, and she said that I wasn't happy there. I was living on the beach at the time, and she said that I wasn't happy there and I should come back to Mansfield and finish my schooling. And I had to put her on the plane because I was working for Wendy's Corporation as a regional manager, and we were beyond busy. I said, Mom, I'll think about that. And put her back on the plane, and she was killed in an automobile accident 2 weeks later. So it was an incredible tragedy, and one which still ranks as the most incredibly difficult time of my life. But I came back and I spent time with my father, and I was committed to fulfilling that obligation. And I came back and I talked to President Kelchner, and he graciously allowed me to return to Mansfield with stipulations. And then the job at the university, as I was at that time president of the SGA, and I was a 35-year-old senior, and with maturity. And I was also working for the Flashlight as a sports editor, and the opportunity came in sports information, and I applied for it. And I became the sports information director in 1988 and had a marvelous career of being part of some of the great moments in Mansfield history.
Yeah, you say that. The rest is history, as they will. Some of those great moments in Mansfield history, what were some of the things that really, really stood out as just truly remarkable about in those moments? What are some of those moments that really stand out to you?
Well, there's a lot of moments. There's more people than there are moments. So, you know, and I think that's part of the whole aspect of, you know, moments are created by people. So Mansfield has always been the David in David and Goliath. You know, almost every time we face an opponent, they're bigger than we are, they're more financed than we are. So any time that we beat someone, it just brought a lot of joy to my heart. And we beat a lot of people. And, you know, you talk about success and getting there and success begetting success. But I've been part of championship teams in both basketball and particularly in baseball, softball, their first ECAC championship, field hockey, their first ECAC championship. But it's developing relationships and telling those stories, not from who won and lost or who scored or who didn't, but developing that Mountie edge that there was pride. And I greatly enjoyed it. I enjoyed working with so many people in the sports information office who have gone on to great things in their lives. Many of them getting into the business because they had the opportunity to experience it here. And those are rewarding. If you know, the honey times, the times of sweetness were, of course, with our baseball program starting in 1992 and running throughout the 90s was perhaps the most feared. And you don't say that often about Mansfield, but it was feared. We didn't beat people, we bludgeoned people. We, of course, in 1992 won the conference championship, won the regional championship, and went to the first Division II World Series that we participated in. Mansfield was in the World Series, Division III in 1979 in baseball. And that was a great experience because, you know, everybody was proud. Everybody was just so excited. We came home, we finished second in the nation. We beat the number one ranked team in the nation 2 out of 3 games, St. Cal SLO. And we got home, school was well out, and the community had a parade for us. It was awesome. And it just had so much pride and joy, and, you know, people took it to their hearts. That team, that program under Harry Helston went to the World Series again in 1993, and in 1994. And in 1995, we were the number 1 ranked team in the nation in the preseason poll. That year, we set the Division II record for home runs in a season. I think we hit 98 in that particular season. And, you know, it was just fun. And the people made it fun. So, you know, and then getting involved, we're coming up on Lumen now, and Lumen was known as the fabulous 1890s in its original birth. And being part of all those things, making things happen like that, getting the recognition for Mansfield on a national scale of the birthplace of night football, participating in the 100-year anniversary of the first night football game when we got GE to come in and actually do a commercial about it that Mansfield was part of, and to pay for the lights and bring it down. You know, we had more than 10,000 people down there when we had that football game, and it was just a whole lot of fun. Making it happen, creating it, making the contacts and making it happen. So, you know, when we talk about Sprint and we talk about football and that bridge, In 2008, when we started our first sprint football season, it was a 4-game season, and we were the front page story on the Wall Street Journal. That's so incredible that happened, and so remarkable. I don't think the Wall Street Journal has ever had a front page college football story, and it never had a college sprint football story on the front page. But we got so much instant recognition and innovation from others that led to all those other programs coming into the CSFL. So great stuff like that. You know, it's just, Mansfield is a special place, and no matter how long or how little your time is here, you always take a part of Mansfield with you.
And you mentioned, and a thing that you mentioned that I love is when talking about really the people make the moments, and the stories make the moments. So in your years here, what were some of the key characteristics of a Mansfield student athlete?
Well, the key characteristic was, for all of them, there was a pride in who they were. There was a pride in representing their classmates, their friends, and their school. And, you know, we lost a lot of games in a lot of different sports. I don't remember us ever giving up in a game, in any sport. An accomplishment. It is that simple aspect of, if you do it long enough and you work hard enough, you know, it's never easy to be a Mountie. You really have to work at it and get better at it. But the friendships that are developed last a lifetime. But I think that's it. I just think Mansfield creates opportunity. So many of those people that came in as student athletes, it created an opportunity that for some it would not be possible anyplace else. For others, they came because they wanted us to become better. They wanted to be part of the process of making us a better program and achieving something. They wanted their name to be associated with that greatness. And my job, and the job of sports information, is never to let people forget that. What they accomplished, what they did, how they did it, who they were, good moments, bad moments, but it's the whole experience that makes you a Mountie.
And speaking of that and opportunities, one thing that I have said forever is I love the fact, Mansfield being a small school, you have those opportunities right away to really be able to do some things that at a quote-unquote bigger university you'd have to wait for.
Absolutely.
And so my question in that is too, in your office, how does that help when you have kids, especially now that there's a sports information major here, but in your office to have students who are able to come up to you and say, hey, I want to get involved in this, and now are successful in this field. How much pride do you have in that?
So if nothing else had ever happened to me in my career, I would judge it to be successful because of them. So it's sort of like children, Drew. You and I don't want to say they're childish or any of that aspect, but you grow attached to them, and your sense of accomplishment comes through what they've achieved, not necessarily what you achieve. And they've done, I mean, people have gone from this program, from this university, and worked at NFL Films, have worked in the NFL at numerous different organizations. So they were on the PR staffs of the Eagles and the Arizona Cardinals. They continue to be, to this day, some of the premier movers in Division I. You know, Chris Peterson is the head of football contact at Penn State. Chris has done that for a number of years now, and I watched the end of the Penn State game the other day, and as James Franklin is running off the field, who, of course, ran on this field for East Stroudsburg, and he was a better runner than a thrower, but they were pretty good. Right next to him, running with him stride for stride, is Chris, who played softball here at Mansfield and graduated from our communications department. And so she is at the epitome. What everybody in this state wants to be, or you think about the perfect job for a Penn State fan, that's the perfect job. And she's there. Eric Bohannon. Eric played on that 2016, the final Division II team that Mansfield fielded. And he was only a junior. He was our long snapper. He worked in the sports information office. He stayed. So when the program left, he stayed. And Ebo went on from here to Appalachian State to now he is the head SID at Old Dominion University. So, I mean, just remarkable stories of that. And they're just John Holtz, communications major here. John was so important to what we did here, especially during that era of the changeover from football. John is now the head SID at Slippery Rock, but even more so, he is nationally prominent with both our national organization and our regional organization. John is just absolutely incredible about what he has done and what he's accomplished. And there are dozens more, and I feel badly right now because I'm to say them all, to bring them all in would take forever to do that. Greg Pellegrino down at Chestnut Hill. I mean, these are just people that have really accomplished something in their lives and become difference makers at their institutions. So, man, how could you not be proud of that? You know, that's all there is.
And of course, you yourself have gotten a numerous amount of national attention. But I remember you saying something to me kind of around the first time we had ever met, which was all these national awards that you get. Obviously, you're humbled by it, but you love the fact that after your name comes Mansfield always, and able to get attention for this university, for a small school in north central Pennsylvania, able to get this attention. So we talked about pride in the people who have come, but pride in this university. How much pride do you have the fact that you have been able to represent Mansfield on a national scale?
Well, that is true. I mean, that was nice. When we were getting the Hall of Fame and other things, I'm on the stage with the biggest schools in the country, USC, Baylor, all those schools were also part of that incoming class. So to feel that you belong, that you've been recognized is great. But I never, ever associated that recognition from me. And that's the honest to God truth. Those student assistants, and before we actually had Matt come on as our full-time assistant, we were dependent on student assistants. There was nobody else. There was me and student assistants. And they did things that student assistants weren't supposed to do because they had to, but they embellished the opportunity. So any award that was named in my honor or given to me in that aspect of it belonged to all of them. And they know that. They did the work. They performed the things. And they took pride in what they accomplished, and they felt that their efforts made a difference. So yeah, it's nice. And Mansfield was recognized as somebody who was a player. And, and Luma and the night football aspect really gave us a opportunity that other small schools don't enjoy, because it's a story that will sell itself every time you bring it up. Every year on the anniversary, AP is going to do a story about the very first night football being played at Mansfield, Pennsylvania. That's what they do. It's like Christmas. It's like you write stories about Christmas. So that helped a lot. But those students, for all those years, and Mac took us to a different level as far as social media and really pushed us more into the modern world. Just incredible people. And yourself.
Well, thank you, Steve. We're going to take a quick break. Do not go anywhere. Much more with Steve McCloskey when we return.
Changing medicine is not only medical treatment or surgical treatment, but giving patients hope.
UPMC brings so much to the table. They're just a comprehensive, visionary system.
UPMC is innovative and always on the cutting edge of technology.
Defining not only healthcare, but health.
Its expertise, its focus on patients and what is best for patients.
As UPMC, we're able to elevate the standard of care. Just a wonderful opportunity.
Welcome back here to Mounties Midweek. It is 2019, which is recognized as the college football's 150th year anniversary. I'm still here joined with Steve McCloskey to talk about that because Mansfield, we've talked, birthplace of night football, a huge part of college football, but also in the transition to sprint football, just some of the moments and some of the memories that make Mansfield great and that we can celebrate along with the rest of the country this 150th year of college football. I want to start with that, the fact that this is the birthplace of night football.
Yes,
that,
it is.
that every single school who has night football, the prime time shows can all be thankful for Mansfield.
Right? They can, and how crazy is that?
That's amazing.
But honestly, and we had talked off camera before, so we are celebrating the 150th anniversary of collegiate football. And the biggest milestone, the biggest change in football from going from a competition to entertainment to an industry was night football. So Mansfield hosted its first night football game, the first night football game in the entire world in 1892. It's just such a remarkable aspect of it. And we have done our public relations department at that time, Dennis Miller and Scott Miller and folks that I was involved with. I was in public relations for all but weeks of my career. Really recognized the importance that we just got together. It was a great group of people to work with, very creative, and they liked that challenge of doing that aspect of it. And so promoting it, we had already always known that fairly much locally. Chester Bailey, who was the owner and the editor of the Mansfield Advertiser, our weekly newspaper, was also a historian, and he would bring that aspect up. During the bicentennial year in 1976, Chet was very instrumental in getting it recognized by organizations, national organizations, including the National Football, Professional Football Hall of Fame, as the birthplace of night football. And we just started building off that aspect of it. And I went into Dennis's office, and this was in 1989, I think. I just came back from a workshop. And on the way back, I'm a history guy. I'm probably more of a history guy than a sports guy, actually. And I'd stopped at a Civil War reenactment. I can't tell you where it was at now, but I stopped back and I just popped into Dennis's office, as I was tending to do, and said, hey, you know, that'd be neat. I just watched the reenactment of the Civil War. If we could do that with night football, you know, we could just it would be great. We get some press off of it. Dennis looked at me, just kind of nodded his head, and we talked a little bit. 40 minutes later, he came back into my office and he said, okay, I just sold that concept to AP. Make sure it happens.
Wow.
And that's how we started doing the reenactments. And we did those reenactments first with, first I just got students to do it. We did it at Smythe Park, which of course was the actual birthplace. And we got them to pull their cars up, and we just did a reenactment. And we just did it because we said we were going to do it. So we created an event to go around the story. We did that for a couple of more years. And then we realized that how it was catching up, and it was going to be the 100th year anniversary. So we did some research, found out that the Edison company and the Houston Thompson Dynamo Company. Both converged and merged that year and became General Electric. Well, the dynamo that lighted it up was a Houston Thompson Dynamo. So they were part of GE. So we were able to contact GE through a number of contacts that we had and interest them in the aspect. We actually floated the idea, wouldn't it be great to do a commercial about this? And they bought, and they bit. And they researched the heck out of it to make sure that we weren't just spinning a yarn. And they committed, they became all in, and in 1992, we lit it up for the very first time again. The lights came on for the first time at Smythe Park since that first game in 1992. The commercial they shot, which you can see it on YouTube at any time, was actually shot in Ireland because it was much cheaper to do it in Ireland. But they used the script they built it off was on our description of the events and the plays that were used. And they gave us the uniforms so that we can continue to do our reenactment. But on that night, on the 100th anniversary, was a Monday night. And they debuted that commercial on Monday Night Football, which was Kansas City playing Oakland. It was awesome, just awesome. And we had such a following, and we turned it into the fabulous 1890s weekend. But what it really was pride. You know, people just had such pride of accomplishments that we did this, and it was remarkable. The next time we continue to do that forever, but the next time I had that same feeling was when we did the very first Luma, when we put lights in the new turf at Carl Van Norman Field. And as I stood out, as we were ready to throw the switch, the ground shook. There were so many people there, and they were so excited, and they were so darn proud of that accomplishment. The ground literally shook when the switch got flipped and the lights came on. It is, you talked about memories before, that's a memory I'll take to my grave, because that feeling will never leave me about how awesome that was. You know, and we managed to keep that tradition going, and that's it. You know, it's a sense of pride that can never be taken away.
That's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Huh?
Absolutely.
Mansfield people creating them.
Yeah.
Hey, almost as incredible, you know, it was the Mansfield players that created that event. Mansfield students started that whole thing. Yeah. They're the ones that talked them in. They were going to bring the electric light. And remember, we didn't have electricity in Mansfield or in Tioga County at that time. So General Electric, in order to promote electricity, was touring county fairs with this huge dynamo, which was the size of a freight car. They'd park it at a siding. In this case, they just parked it at the track, or on the tracks of the train. Unload it, set it up, and show people at the fair the electric lights. Well, the fairs loved it. Are you kidding me? This was an attraction that was better than any freak show they could ever come up with. This was the future. This was the electric light. They had heard about it, but no one had ever seen it. People came from everywhere just to see that aspect of it. And these student athletes talked to Mr. John L. Cummings, who was in charge of bringing the apparatus to Mansfield. He was a Mansfield businessman, about the opportunity to play a game. They loved it. They allowed it. The game wasn't perfect, but it was the first night football game.
Wow. And one of the things that I know you like to stress this story with this current age of football that Mansfield has, sprint football. And I know it was a bit of a challenge to try and get sprint football here to Mansfield. You tell a story to the team every single year because you want those guys to realize what it means when you put on the Mansfield uniform. And you tell that story about that final division Division II team. What was so remarkable, and if you want, you can share that story. What is so remarkable about that final group?
Well, what is remarkable is the human spirit. And Mansfield is about overcoming adversity. It teaches you. If you come here, you learn how to overcome adversity. And there's a right way and a wrong way to do that. So in 2006, Mansfield had a football team, and we were excited about the start of the season. In 2003, we were a nationally ranked program. Started the season by winning our first 6 games. We were on fire in the community, and the alumni were on fire. It would go on to be an 8-3 season, which ties for the most wins we've ever had in a long history. This is the 124th season that we have football at Mansfield. But the 8 wins would tie the highest mark that we ever had. And the seniors in that 2016 were freshmen on that 2003 team. And they were contributors. They were guys that started. They helped make that happen. The next 3 seasons were so disappointing in comparison to that. We just kind of lost the magic. And I think we won 2 games over the course of the 2 seasons. So we came into 2006, renewed hopes, as you always do at the beginning of the season. In July of that year, we had a brand new administration. New president posed in the picture with the 2006 team during their pictures, their team photo. And we struggled. We were good, but we just struggled. There was just something missing. It wasn't for effort, it wasn't for caring, it wasn't for commitment. Late in the season, a rumor started, a very small rumor, not heard by very much because people on the cabinet were not prone to share this. But there was a discussion about football. And decision had been made that football would be terminated because the university was facing a budget crisis. And rather than impact academics, they were going to impact athletics, and the biggest athletic thing to impact was the football program. But it was never leaked, never got out until the very end of the season. 2 games remained. Football team had not won a game. And the word got out, the football program would be discontinued. It wasn't supposed to happen until the end of the season, obviously. Well, they called a special meeting, and they had the football team show up, and they informed them that this would be the last season. So that team, that was in the morning. By early afternoon, that had spread like wildfire. It had actually hit, by that time, the national media. No other program was cut during that season in football. Started getting phone calls in the sports information office from all of our regional media and TV stations from Scranton, TV stations from Elmira. Everybody was calling. And everybody wanted to come down, and everybody wanted to talk to the players who had just heard that day, and this was Halloween Eve, had just heard that day that the football was going to be dropped. My fear was that they were going to talk to some of these players who were going to react with emotion that would portray them to be something they were not. to be punks or to be bullies or to be somebody that deserved what they got. So I asked the people not to come, and I would arrange for things for them the next day. And they just said, Steve, we like you, but this is sweeps week. This is the biggest story that we're going to have for the rest of this run, and we're coming down. So you can either help us, or we'll wait to practice it over, and we'll get somebody coming off practice. So I went up, and players were filtering into the room, and I didn't even know if there would even be a practice. I didn't know if anybody would show up after hearing that news. And honestly, you could understand why they went. So I went up, and I managed to find a couple of players. Incredibly upset. Emotional as you can even imagine. And they agreed to speak, and they did an awesome job. Better job than I could have done. But what really caught my attention and what changed my look on everything and was really became the proudest moment that I've seen of any Mansfield team have here, from a team that didn't win a game, was on that day when Mansfield University told those 67 football players that there was no room for them. And they quit on football. All 67 of those players showed up for practice on a raw, miserable day when it hurt just to be outside. And all 67 walked in unison from that practice facility, or from Carl Van Allen Clubhouse over to Russell Field. And the only thing you could hear was the rhythmic sound of their cleats. Because what sports teaches us, what those players taught me, is that when someone quits on you, you don't quit on each other. They played 2 more games, and we didn't score a touchdown. The last game was against Millersville. It was a homecoming. It was senior day. And the place was packed. And it rained. And it just put the mood very appropriately set for the whole aspect of it. But on the walk through the night before, a number of those seniors came up to me. And they asked me not to let anyone ever forget what they went through and how they handled it. So for every year since then, since 2008, I've talked to every one of those football teams. And I let them know that the greatest moment I've seen in Mansfield sports was at that moment. Because when you can't go any lower, when it can't get any worse, there was a spirit in them that was undefeated. That's what we teach. That's what sports are about.
Wow. And you know, that swings right into that first sprint football team had a player on that team who embodied that completely, and that's Kevin Valentine, Vegas. Obviously, he tragically passed just a year ago, but truthfully to this program and the rebirth, so to speak, of the Mansfield football program, what did he mean to the program, and how special of a person was Kevin?
Kevin Valentine was a special human being who found Mansfield because Mansfield had an opportunity that he didn't want to quit on. Kevin Valentine came from the deserts of Nevada. Tobana, which is located halfway between Vegas, and I think halfway between Carson City. It's all by itself. It's a desert community. But he wanted to keep on playing football. He probably weighed 110 pounds. But he had a heart and an ambition the size of the biggest football player that ever lived. He found a way to get to Mansfield. And he joined the football team. We had a very eclectic group of people that came that first year. But 12 of those players came from different states. Our quarterback came from Alaska. We used that to cultivate the story. And that's how we got the Wall Street Journal to come here. And the persons they use, they don't use pictures in the Wall Street Journal. They use characters. They use ink drawings of portraits. And the person on the front page of the Wall Street Journal is Kevin Valentine, because he represented that spirit. Kevin was so skinny that while everybody else was trying to cut weight to make the 172 limit at that time, Kevin needed to put on weight and put on fat because his body fat was lower than permissible in the CSFL. So Kevin would go to the calf and sit there with ice cream cones and eat as much as he possibly can, while the rest of the players would go by with the 2 pieces of salad they may have had on that, just ready to kill him. But Kevin became a player for us. He never quit. I guess that's the whole theme of everything about Mansfield. You never quit. Kevin ran out of money. He worked in the local community in order to get enough money to come back to school. He lived for free because he couldn't afford it, with people that he knew, because they all loved Kevin and were ready to help him. And he came back, and he came back over all those adversities, and he graduated. And he played one last year of CSL football. He got a special exemption to play one more year. And Kevin, tragically, as you said, he had a cancerous brain tumor and passed away way too early in life. But such an inspirational person, and really defined what it is. He just wanted an opportunity. He had visions of himself that were greater than his being. And Mansfield, as we often do, provided him that opportunity. And he was so damn grateful. When he died, he was surrounded by teammates from that first year who took turns by sitting by his bedside. That's a difference maker. That's someone who makes a difference in someone's life. Remarkable. And Sprint gave that to us.
Well, Steve, thank you truthfully so much. Wish we could just sit here and keep talking. But thank you so much for stopping by here.
Hey, it is my pleasure. You know, you do a great job. I'm so appreciative that you bring this venue to people and they give our student athletes the opportunity to be seen and heard. It's good stuff, Drew. You know, it's good stuff.
Thank you very much. And Mounties Midweek, we'll take a break. We'll be right back.
From court and lane to lane under the lights or under the sun. No one delivers Division II sports like NCAA.com. The center of D2 is inside the NCAA.com hub, with exclusive highlights of every sport and live broadcasts of every Division II championship found nowhere else. Make NCAA.com yours. The home of Division II college.
Of Mother Nature's perfect blend, the keystone of the Keystone State. Visit Potter Tioga, a 2-county scenic outdoor haven conveniently located, yet worlds apart. A place where you can kick back, unwind, and forget about the pressures of life. Disconnect and reconnect with your friends, family, or even yourself while surrounded by nature's beauty. So start planning your adventures today at visitpottertioga.com.
It is now time for Play of the Week. Last week, we had 2 plays for you, and based on your votes, the winner was John Rogers, weaving through 3 defenders for his first career touchdown. This week, we have 2 plays for you. The first one comes from Wednesday. The Mansfield field hockey team was tied at 1, but Larissa Motts would change that. That's the go-ahead goal. That's the game-winning goal. Mansfield won this game 2-1. Play number 2 comes from Saturday, and right before halftime with Mansfield trailing, trying to get the momentum to shift, DJ McLean toe-tapping in the back of the end zone for the touchdown. Make sure you head to Twitter to vote for which one of these plays is your pick for Play of the Week, and results will be revealed next week. That's our show for this week. To stay up to date on all things Mountaineer athletics, head to GoMounties.com. Thank you so much for watching.